It struck me that there's a lot of similarity between your printmaking technique and your painting technique. Which came first? Are they twin loves? Are they things that you both do equally?
Well, not really. My thing is painting. This is my very first experience in printing and even in doing a book. I did some printing when I was young, back at home, when I was training with my father, but that was just a long, long time ago. And actually this technique, these monotypes, is completely new for me. So it's my first experience, which I'm very happy about, actually.
I was going to say, is that a good thing? Completely new is usually a good thing for an artist.
It is, yes. In this case, it's been an experience so enriching and challenging also. It's been very good, very intense, and I'm very happy with the result of the prints and the book.
It's interesting because they have a similar feel, but very different approach in presentation, because you have these flat surfaces and it's strictly pigment against the canvas that reflects back at you, whereas with the book you get a feeling for the paper, you get a feeling for the light passing through the paper, and so the print, the thing that you've created, stands more out away from the surface.
Well, yes, it is true. That's the beauty of using different techniques. It's the end result in a painting. In my case, in the way I paint, is this one result that you can see here. And as you have said, and this is true, the results in the paper and the transparency and the freshness of it and the texture of the paper, and it's so beautiful. It's unique. It's exactly as you said it is, and it's beautiful because it's two different techniques. In the end, we all artists, I guess, are telling our own same story. But the technique it enriches the end product.
What was the initial idea that you came to the making of a book project or a printmaking project? What was it that gave you that first impetus to say, oh, this is something I want to
do? The beginning of this particular story is this very generous invitation offered from EPI and his director, Curly Holton. He offered me this opportunity and I was very happy, and I worked back in Spain. I worked in the concept, you see, trying to figure out what I wanted to say. So I had this story. I worked in the story back at home. And then when I came here, I had the story, I had the texts, but I didn't have the technique to do the images, which I learned. And it's been a very beautiful process because as I was working on it, things were coming and happening that made this book a very kind of complete. It's like a circle that it starts and it goes on, and its last picture in the back is like a da capo, which means that it goes again. So the creative process has been very interesting here. The images have added so much to the idea that I had before, to the concept that I had.
Amaya's story in the book begins actually in the cradle. It begins when she was christened with champagne. A poem was written to her and for her by a family friend and poet, Lucille Mogenet, a French poet. And so that poem is in the book. It is in there in French, in Spanish, and in English. We had a great time translating it into English. It took like 4 people to do that. It was wonderful. And to read this is just is beautiful. So, but how many people have the good fortune to be blessed in their cradle, given all these blessings in their cradle, and then to have the ability then to look back in their own lives and take that experience and then carry it out through this piece of art when they are then in their later life. And so that's basically what is here. And then there's writing called The Man of the Future in Spanish and in English that accompanies the poem, which is a lullaby, actually. So there's a lullaby, and then the writing about the man in the future is almost a manifesto about Amaya's beliefs. And when she says the man, she really is speaking of humanity. In the traditional way, we used to use the word man. And so I think that needs to be understood as well. And we are all part of this humanity, and she's referring to everyone. Fascinating to read it, and it has the same timeless language that is in the images. And so I feel this is a very beautifully integrated piece of work, words and images. It could only be done in a book.